Hey friends, welcome back to the Daily Dose. Thank you for sticking in there on this journey as we walk through the Bible on a daily basis together as a community. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys are here, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So, today we have got day number 77, right? Day number 77. So, that means we've got Psalm number 77. We've also got the book of Ruth. We're starting a new book today, the book of Ruth. And whenever we start a new book, generally that means that we've got some cool supplementary video material from our friends at Read Scripture, aka the Bible Project. So go down below in the description, click that thing. Go check them out, give them a thumbs up, drop them a comment, let them know you appreciate the work that they do to further the gospel. And if you need to get a copy of the reading plan that we're using to go through the Bible over the course of a year, there's a link for that down below too. So feel free to have at it. What we're going to do is start off at the beginning today with Ruth. So in Ruth, we have got the book picking up with a guy named Elimelech. Elimelech has got a wife. His wife is Naomi. Now, there's going to be a lot of names in this story. The main names that you need to worry about is Naomi and Ruth, who we'll mention in just a little bit. The other names are important, but they're not going to be with us throughout the whole book. So don't think you got to memorize everybody's name. So you've got the husband of this family. He's Elimelech. You've got his wife, Naomi. Okay. Now, Elimelech has got two sons. His two sons are Mahlon or Mahlon and Chilion. Each of those two sons have a wife. Okay, so one of the wives is Orpah, not to be confused with Oprah. Orpah. The other wife is Ruth. Okay, so you've got the family, you've got the mother and the father, and then you've got two sons, and each of those two sons have a wife. You with me so far? You tracking? You picking up what I'm putting down? Okay, good. All right, so now what we find out is that so this book takes place during the time of the judges. And during this time, we read that there was a famine in the land. Okay? So Elimelech and his family lived over in the area of Judah. But because of this famine, they end up going over to Moab. And while they're in Moab, living their life, doing their thing, we find out that Elimelech ends up dying. So Naomi is left as a widow. And unfortunately, we also read that Elimelech's two sons also die. So now we're left with three widows. We've got Naomi, and then we've got the two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. So the men it doesn't tell us how they died. It could have been an accident, could have been, whatever. Point being is, these poor guys are gone. So what happens next is that we read the famine kind of starts coming to an end. Right? God provides, and the famine slowly starts to kind of fade away. And at this point, Naomi decides, look, the famine back home in Judah is over with, and I don't have anything for you girls. I don't have any other sons for you to marry. It's going to be a waste of your time to just hang out with me. You guys go back to your families, right? Go back to your mothers, go back home, and just live your life the best that you can, right? Don't worry about hanging around with little old me. There ain't nothing in it for you. So ultimately, Orpah decides, okay, I'm going to go back to my home. Ruth, on the other hand, says, no, 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 no. I'm not going to leave you hanging and by yourself. I want to stick with you. Where you go, I will go. And Ruth says to Naomi, your people, the Jews, will be my people. And Ruth also says, your God will be my God. So we have Ruth basically saying, look, not only am I going to come with you, but I'm going to be extremely close to you to the point where your people will be my people. I want to become one of you, right? And your God will become my God. I want to worship and serve this God that I have learned about through you, is kind of what Ruth is saying. So from this point, they do end up going back over to the area of Judah. And the next segment of the story is that Ruth meets a gentleman named Boaz. Kind of a weird name, right? If you're looking for baby names, you may not want to pick Boaz. That could be trouble. I don't know. Maybe it would work out. But what we learn about Boaz is that he's harvesting. He's got this field, and this is kind of like when the barley harvesting had recently begun. Okay, so now Ruth goes out to glean grain. Now we read about this back in the first 5 books of the Old Testament. We read about how the poor and the foreigners among the Israelites would be allowed to go walk around the edges of people's fields and just glean, pick little bits of food, bits of grain, and use that to sustain themselves. They weren't supposed to go and harvest enough stuff from the edges of someone else's field that they could go store it up and sell it and make a profit. That wasn't permitted, but they were allowed to, if they needed assistance and they couldn't afford food, they were able to go down and just kind of pick from the edges of people's fields in order to sustain themselves. So Ruth ends up to go down and she gleans grain, and she happens to be on the outskirts of Boaz's field. Okay, now Boaz, we find out, is actually a relative of Elimelech, which was Ruth's father-in-law. Okay, I know we're getting confusing. Now we're adding more names and more relationships, but basically, Ruth's father-in-law is somehow related to this guy Boaz. Now, Boaz is intrigued by this girl Ruth after they kind of meet and have a little bit of an encounter at his field. It's a pleasant encounter, and he seems to be very nice and very polite, but he seems to be interested in Ruth and what she's all about and who she is and where she came from. So he ends up giving permission to Ruth to stay in his field. He says, look, instead of gleaning a little bit from my field and then going and gleaning the next day from the next field and so on and so forth, you can just hang out in my field all you want. There's plenty of crops. There's plenty of grain. I like having you here. So, hey, have at it. Just hang around and you can just set up shop here and get what you need from my field whenever you need it. And he ends up inviting her to dinner. Ooh, right? Uh-huh. So he does have a little bit of a thing for Ruth, it would seem. So he invites her to dinner. They have a nice little meal together, and Ruth ends up returning back home. So Naomi says, hey, Ruth, tell me about your day. What happened? What's going on? And Ruth explains the situation that happened with this guy she met named Boaz. Well, Naomi explains, oh, that guy Boaz is actually a relative of ours. He is related in some way to my now gone, lost, departed husband. So this gets interesting, right? We read next about a story where Ruth goes back to Boaz at the threshing floor. Okay, so leading up to this story, Naomi gives Ruth some advice, some dating advice. And Naomi says, okay, you need to go over there, and after Boaz has, fallen asleep, you need to uncover his feet and then go lay down by his feet. And this sounds kind of weird, right? I don't know exactly where Naomi got this advice from, but that's what she says to do. She says, go uncover his feet and just lay down and curl up, by his feet. And that's exactly what she does. So Ruth does this, and Boaz wakes up in the middle of the night, and he sees Ruth. He's like, whoa, what's going on? And so Ruth explains that he is her guardian redeemer. And basically what that means is that she's letting Boaz know, hey, you are related to my father-in-law, and you're related to my deceased husband, who is his son. And because you are related, that kind of puts you as next in line to marry me and take me in as your own and take care of me. That's sort of what this kinsman, guardian, redeemer thing was all about. So Boaz says, okay, look, I hear you, but there's actually somebody in the family line who is more closely related to her father-in-law than Boaz was. So Boaz says, look, I've got to give this guy first dibs. If he wants to take you on and take care of you and make you his wife, this guy gets first choice. So let me figure out if this guy's willing to do that. So Ruth goes back home. Next segment of the story is we read that this closer redeemer, the person who had first dibs at Ruth, he ends up turning the situation down. He says, nope, I can't do it. It's not going to work out for me. So Boaz is able to accept the offer to redeem Ruth. They get married. Ruth gets pregnant, and there's a boy that's born, right? They have a boy, baby boy. This baby boy's name is Obed. And this is where it gets exciting. You know who Obed is? You want to take a guess? Obed is the grandfather of David, King David, right? David was the son of Jesse. Jesse was the son of Obed. So Ruth is basically, I guess that would make Ruth the great-grandmother of David. Pretty interesting, huh? So anyways, that's about all I've got for you guys today. I ran a little bit longer than usual with my summary for today, but I appreciate you guys being here, and we will continue on in the book of Ruth for tomorrow. Have a good day, and until we meet again, deuces.